Hey everybody, Ryan Marrinan here, application engineer at 3M. OEMs commonly use robots to apply seam sealers from the factory, and these can be very difficult to replicate in the aftermarket. In this video, I'm going to show you a new offering from us here at 3M to help replicate these OEM looks and appearances with our seam sealers. Before we get started, let's talk about PPE. It's important that you follow your local regulations for the personal protective equipment required for all collision repairs being made in your facilities. You'll notice in this video I'm wearing nitrile gloves. I also have a set of safety glasses on, and I will be using a respirator while dispensing the material. Second, this video is intended for occupational use only, such as body shops or paint shops. If you want to learn more, please refer to our website for safety and warranty information. So let's get started. It can be difficult to replicate a lot of these OEM robotically applied seam sealers in the aftermarket. Introducing the 3M OEM Match Adjustable Ripple Tip. When used with our two-part products, our heavy-bodied seam sealer part number 8308 and our bare metal seam sealer part number 8310, we are now able to achieve many of these looks and appearances that are commonly applied by robots at the factory. First, what we want to make sure with every repair is that all bare metal is being coated and covered properly with the recommended 2K epoxy or 2K urethane primers. This will ensure proper corrosion protection and our ability to restore the vehicle back to its pre-accident crash worthiness and provide the corrosion protection needed. Our first application we're going to talk about is on-vehicle application. What we want to start with is making sure that we properly equalize the cartridge. This is going to include equalizing it until we have equal parts of A and B coming out of the cartridge, applying a new static mixing nozzle to that cartridge. Once we have the locking ring firmly in place, we want to make sure that we are dispensing some additional material, generally 2 to 4 inches, to make sure that we have proper mixing in the static mixing ladder. Next, we want to apply seam sealer to the repair area and tool it down with a brush, mud spreader, or other tool similar to our other videos in our seam sealer series on our social media channels. Once the material has started to set up or has cured, we want to make sure that we replace the static mixing nozzle on the cartridge by first equalizing the cartridge and then dispense a few more inches of material. Now that the cartridge is prepared, we can then attach the 3M OEM Match Adjustable Ripple Tip. Once we have the tip applied appropriately to the static mixing nozzle, we want to make sure that we dispense a few inches of material to make sure it's flowing properly. And then we can dispense material and rotate the nozzle to achieve the desired width and appearance to replicate the factory look on the vehicle that we are repairing. The second method that we want to talk about is an off-vehicle application. Some of the reasons for maybe building the bead off the vehicle and then installing later is going to be difficulty to reaching certain areas of the vehicle, the size of the applicator in tight spaces, any overhead application, or difficult to maneuver curves and radiuses of the panels themselves. When we're doing an off-vehicle application, we want to make sure that we always equalize the cartridge first. We're going to do this by removing the static mixing nozzle, dispensing equal parts of A and B out of the cartridge, installing a new static mixing nozzle, and then extrude a few inches of material out onto a static mixing board. This is going to ensure that we have adequate mixing in the static mixing nozzle. Next, we want to start making the bead on a bench top by applying it over packaging tape, laying it out in the bead shape or pattern that we need to apply it to the vehicle. Now let the bead cure and start prepping the vehicle, including any scuffing or cleaning prior to applying seam sealer. Once we're done cleaning, apply seam sealer to the vehicle repair area to ensure that all seams are sealed. Once the bead on the packaging tape is cured, remove it from the packaging tape and dry fit it into place on the vehicle. Mark and trim as necessary to account for any length requirements prior to wetting it out. Once that bead has been trimmed, Now turn it over on the bench top, apply material to the backside, and brush it out. It's important to point out you want to use the same material that the bead was built with to wet out the backside so we do not have any problems. Once the full backside of the bead has been brushed out, apply it to the vehicle, firmly press in place, and let it cure. Once it is cured, go back and make sure there isn't any gaps or voids. If any gaps or voids are found, dispense a small amount of material and brush into those gaps to ensure proper sealing on the seam. Once this is completed, also finish any other tooling required to replicate the original look and appearance. Now that the repair is complete, follow the 3M recommendations on the cartridge label for cure times and paint times prior to moving on to the next step. That's all for this video. For more information on seam sealers, check out 3mcollisionrepairacademy.com or our other social media channels. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.